Okay, hello everyone. I hope everybody's having a lovely pre-Memorial Day weekend, Thursday. I'm sure a lot of you are already on the road, heading out to whatever long weekend you have planned ahead of you. I'll, of course, be at Broadfest, watching some live music up here in Madison. I thought it'd be fun to go live today to experiment with AI. I mean, AI has got to be one of the most talked about things in the last couple of months. And it was already something that was interesting, and I was planning on doing this video. And then last weekend, I was up at QuantumCon in Plymouth, Minnesota, at this convention that was about the paranormal and pop culture and sci-fi. And over and over and over again, when people would find out that I work with the International Screenwriters Association, that's my day job, I had two questions asking me right away. One, aren't you on strike? Which, no, I'm not on strike. The Writers Guild is on strike, and we do work with them, but we are not the Writers Guild, and I'm not part of the Writers Guild. I would love to be one day, support the strike. But no, I'm not affected by that. But then, too, what will come up so quickly all the time is, are you afraid of AI? And I've poked around with AI a little bit. ChatGPT is what we're going to talk about mostly here. We are going to have some fun with some graphics, graphic creators, though, as I've been experimenting with that a little bit as well. And it's kind of mind-blowing stuff. But when it comes to the ChatGPT, no, I don't think creative people will be just immediately obliterated from their jobs. And you might be wondering why exactly, how does this fit this channel that we're on, where we like to talk about ghost stories? Well, we're going to be talking ghost stories within the world of ChatGPT, within the world of AI as well. Mostly doing it live here on the spot, so I don't exactly know how things are going to go. And yes, I'm going to prompt it to see if it can interview me as well. And we'll see how that goes as well. I'm expecting the wheels to fall off a little bit, but it's going to be fun to go on this journey together. And, you know, AI already has this connotation straight away that it's going to be the end of the world. That, I mean, we've seen this since Isaac Asimov was writing about advanced future intelligence, seeing humans as just a blight. Well, the world would be a happier place without humanity, so let's just get rid of them. And so all these sci-fi ideas that have been around for 100 years or more, people are wondering, are we at the very edge and the end of civilization? And I think with any new technology, well, with any technology in general, it could be used for good, it could be used for bad, and we are still here. The A-bomb, the H-bomb, those came out generations ago, and yes, massive destruction has happened from them, but we are still here as a species. So I don't think I'm that worried about AI at all yet, but it's a tool right now. It is a tool that will continue to get better, and it is a tool for us creatives to use. And it is a tool for us ghost hunters to use as well, for us researchers, investigators. The current version of ChatGPT is apparently light years ahead of where it was the previous version, I think, where it's up to version 4 now. And the next version will be even better. But so let's just take a look, and I suppose we'll just dive in. Oh yeah, let's go into what exactly we are going to be talking about today. So first, we're going to look at one of my favorite urban legend locations, The Gate in Libertyville, Illinois, a place that I visit several times a year, a place where I take people frequently. We do some investigations. I was actually just there with legendary Chicago ghost hunter Dale Kaczmarek, and we're doing some investigation there. It's always an intriguing place. So we'll get into how the AI sees it, and then, of course, you know, what we know to be true. So we're going to test it a little bit here. How can it help you write an article? And I'll show an example of how, well, I don't want to say how I used it, but how it tried to help me. And then we're going to test it with a couple other more famous urban legends or ghost stories, Peg Entwhistle. We're going to go through it trying to interview me, and then Resurrection Mary. And then we're going to have some fun with images. And then eventually we're going to end it up, if there's any writers around, we are going to go completely off topic, completely away from ghost stories, and talk about show creation, show ideas. Which is something I've just dabbled with a little bit. And I'm just going to show you what I've done. Basically, I'm going to show you my entire ChatGPT history because I haven't used it that much. But to get started, we always see ChatGPT. What does that stand for? And here's what GPT means. Chat Generative Pre-Trained Transformer. It's good that they shortened it. But I think right now, the most important thing to note is that the phrase pre-trained in there. And that almost tells you everything you need to know right away. It is pre-trained. It is not coming up with spontaneous ideas. It is going through a program to try to suit what it thinks we want. So it completely is not, I would argue, not an artificial intelligence. It is a great tool, but it is not intelligent in and of itself. It just goes through the web, and it has a very elegant way of conveying information back to us. Because it is pretty amazing that you can ask it a question or you can ask it to do something, and it will do a very, very good job of it. But let's just see how good of a job as we dive into our first ghost story here, which is, of course, the Gate in Libertyville, Illinois. Now, if you don't know about this location, we will get into it. But first, let's see what the chat bot has to say, and then we'll go through some corrections. And again, I did this a couple weeks ago, so I'll be kind of fairly fresh rereading it. And okay, so I said, tell me the urban legend about the Gate in Libertyville, Illinois. And its response was, the urban legend of the Gate in Libertyville, Illinois is a spooky story that has been told for decades. Maybe I'll just check it as we go. And that's true. It's a gate. It's a urban legend, spooky story that has been around for decades. According to legend, there is a large iron gate located in a remote area of a town that serves as a portal to the afterlife. That's new to me. Legend has it that if you go to the gate and say the words, I condemn you, spirit, 3 times while looking through the bars of the gate, a ghostly hand will reach out and grab you, dragging you to the world of the dead. First off, that's amazing. I've never heard that before. That is not at all part of the legend of the gate. And I picked the gate in this test because this is a location that has a whole bunch of different versions of well-told and retold urban legends that whatever was back there once upon a time in this wooded area and today used to be an orphanage, a sleepaway camp, an all-boys school or an all-girls school. It had all of these different urban legends connected to it. Nowhere is there any sort of a portal to the other side. This is purely horror movie, but it's also really interesting and fun writing. There are many different versions of the legend, that's true, with some variations, including the idea that ghost of a young girl who died tragically haunts the area around the gate. Now, I've always heard about a little boy has been seen. However, there's so many variations. This could possibly be something that people have claimed. I'm not sure. I've never heard it. Others claim that the gate leads to a tunnel. This is not true at all. That was once used by the Underground Railroad to help slaves escape to freedom. Again, with all of the different versions of legends about the gate, never have I seen anything about the Underground Railroad, which is a fantastic concept. We'll keep moving forward. Despite numerous attempts to debunk the legend and prove that the gate is simply a normal part of the town's infrastructure, many people still believe that the gate holds a supernatural power. As a result, it has become a popular destination for thrill seekers and ghost hunters, very true, who want to test their courage and see if they can summon the ghostly spirits that are said to reside here. So the real story is that it opened up in the 1920s as an orphanage. And the interesting thing is that so many versions of the actual urban legends are true, that it was a sleepaway camp at one point. It was an orphanage. But it was definitely not part of the Underground Railroad. I mean, if it was, this is not known. And there's definitely not a tunnel back there. There are some foundations of the original buildings. There's still a filled in-ground pool. There's fire hydrants, telephone poles, a lot still, I mean, not easy to find, but there are a lot of ruins or artifacts from its previous incarnations. And eventually all the buildings were just bulldozed when they became very old and hazardous. So as an investigator, as a paranormal investigator, it would be awesome if you were going to a location and instead of thinking, oh gosh, I have to do all of this research and go to all of these different sources and all these different books, I'll just ask ChatGPT to tell me what the story is. And as we see here, if you were to do this about the gate, you would not get almost any good information. Some of the other legends, which are very over the top, and I can't believe this is missed, is that a bunch of kids were killed here. There's actually nothing in this that talks about children being killed. And most of the stories have either blood still visible on the gate or even Well, sometimes a child beckoning from the other side of the gate. But people also say that the killer, when they came through, they chopped off a bunch of heads. I think the number is 5. They decapitated 5 kids and put the heads of the kids on the top of the gate. That does not appear in here, and that's a very huge part of this obviously fake urban legend. But it's funny that, even when trying to find the urban legend, it doesn't get that part. Now, again, so as we looked at my prompt, tell me the urban legend about the gate in Libertyville, Illinois. I did it one more time, just slightly different. What is the urban legend of the gate in Libertyville, Illinois? And so let's see what it said this time. The urban legend of the gate in Libertyville, Illinois, is a spooky tale that's been passed around for decades. The story goes that there was a gate in a wooded area of the town that is said to be a portal to hell. So again, both times in different ways. Portal, a gateway to the afterlife, I think the previous one. Now portal to hell. It's getting more drastic. According to legend, if you drive through the gate at night and stop your car, you'll be able to hear the sounds of the tortured souls and demonic apparitions, and see demonic apparitions. Again, it's just getting more negative. It's a little wild. So first off, I guess you could technically drive through the gate, but you wouldn't, because it's a hiking trail. It's not, there hasn't been a vehicle that's not part of the Illinois Forest Preserve that's driven through that gate in ages. This is kind of reminiscent of some of those stories, stop the car on the train tracks. Also, I'm going to go back really quick. As the previous version talked about, saying, I condemn you, spirit, saying that 3 times while looking through the bars of the gate. Still, I love the creativity of it. And also connecting it to the Underground Railroad. Those feel like versions of the St. Patrick's cemetery in Wadsworth, Illinois, that has the urban legend of Mary Worth, who was, as the legend goes, unsubstantiated legend goes, was someone who would capture and possibly even torture, or maybe even do like satanic ritualistic type things with runaway slaves, because that involves obviously the Underground Railroad. And the legend is that if you were to go to St. Patrick's Cemetery and say either I believe in you, Mary Worth, or I'm not afraid of you, Mary Worth, something along those lines, that you will then be scratched across the face. So it's interesting that there's kind of elements of a different urban legend here. And this one, again, stopping your car at the gate, there's lots of different legends about that. I was just down, a few years ago, pre-pandemic, I was down in at Sauganash Tunnel in Eastern Tennessee, which is a place with alleged child spirits, and you're supposed to shut your car off when you're in the tunnel. Things will happen, or you won't be able to get it started again as well. So anyway, just reminding me of that. The gate is said to be located on a road called River Road, just south of Route 176. Interesting that they've opted to put in some detail, some location detail here, which is accurate. There are varying versions of the legend, but one popular story tells of a group of teenagers who drove through the gate and were chased by a demonic entity. Again, demons. Supposedly, one of the teens was so terrified that he died of a heart attack on the spot. It's interesting because there are stories that I've personally come across that involve people being chased on foot. They weren't driving through; they were walking through deep in the woods, and screams chased them out. And there's different stories of a much more macabre nature about possibly somebody having a possession of sorts or being affected in some sort of an intense way like that. Move my image there so we can see this better. Actually, I'll just do this. Over the years, the gate has become a popular spot for ghost hunters and thrill seekers who often visit the area to see if they can experience any paranormal activity. There's no evidence to suggest the gate is anything more than an urban legend. It remains a spooky part of Libertyville's folklore. It's kind of interesting that it chose to opine that there's legends, but nothing behind it. It's interesting also. It doesn't paint the picture fully in that this is, obviously this one thinks cars are driving through it. And the other one doesn't really talk about the fact that this is a secluded part of town. It's part of a forest preserve. Yes, it's off the road by, 20, 30 yards. But it's not in the middle of town, which some of these kind of makes me feel like it is a little bit. I'm going to put this back up because if anybody is watching and wants me to play around a little bit on my own, you can make some requests and I'll go and try it out for you. Just want to really quickly, it's always hard juggling all of this stuff. Just want to make sure that we are live on the internets. Okay, we are. So let's see, what were we doing next? I got to get back to my own. So we were going, so yes, auto writing an article. So I don't know if anybody watching uses WordPress at all, but something popped up recently and then it disappeared for a while. And I think it's back now. It would say, as you're in the middle of writing an article, it would say, hey, let us write the next paragraph for you with our new AI thing that we're testing out. So I guess this is one thing that's not ChatGPT that we're going to look at. And so I finally did it. And anybody watching this is going to get a sneak preview of an upcoming article that's going to be on my website, which is whatsyourghoststory.com. A while ago, way too long ago, a friend was heading out to LA, which is where I used to live. And I ran a ghost tour. And they said, I'll be in town there for just a few days. What should I do while I'm there? Which is such a huge question. My head exploded because there's so many things you could possibly do in LA. And then I thought, well, that's a great idea because I'm sure she's not the only one that ever had that question. And so I wanted to write a several part series of, if you're in this part of town, here's what you can do. If you want nightlife ideas, here's some ideas. If you're on this side of the mountain, you should do this. So I was working on the downtown LA portion. And as you can see, I'm only in the outline stage here. There are some intro paragraphs above this, but seriously, this is as I'm getting a call from Compton, California right now. Don't go to Compton. This is just an outline. So I want to talk about some of this is blocked for me. Something Los Angeles, probably Plaza de Los Angeles, the Avila Adobe, La Golondrina restaurant, which I poorly misspelled there, I'm noticing, the Pico House, and then also, these are just notes to self. Also mentioned Union Station and Chinatown. And I had previously written about some of those areas, so I made a note to myself to go back and make sure that article looked polished, the original one I wrote. So then also mention the Edison downtown, one of the coolest places I've ever been. Angel's Flight, any fans of Perry Mason, the first season would know that. That's a really iconic and old school, the shortest railway in the world. The Biltmore Hotel, which I've got a video coming up on the Biltmore as well. LA Central High School number 9, an iconic place that we were the ones to uncover some ghost stories about. And then just lumping a whole bunch together here, Clifton's, another amazing place. Broadway, the street itself down there. The Last Bookstore, Kohl's, and the Bradbury Building. All sorts of iconic, old school, really cool places to check out, places that I take people. And so I said, okay, fine. I clicked the button, write the next paragraph for me. I figured I'm done with my list. Now you go. And it took it upon itself to see that a list was in progress and then suggest the next option, so it came up with number 7, the Haunted Bookstore, which is a little bit wrong. I got to say right off the bat, because I wrote the Last Bookstore in section 6 there. And that's what they're calling the Haunted Bookstore is the Last Bookstore. Kind of odd that it was, I thought at first it was really cool that it was continuing the list, but then, it missed something here. So I'll read this off. And this is a place that is very famous. So you could find reviews there. It found reviews and descriptions all over. And I think it did a pretty good job. One of the eeriest spots in downtown LA is the Last Bookstore, located on the corner of 5th and Spring. The massive bookstore offers a unique shopping experience with shelves and shelves of new and used books, including a section called The Labyrinth, made completely out of books. However, many visitors have reported eerie encounters and paranormal activity within the store, including unexplained footsteps, sudden cold spots, and even sightings of a ghostly figure. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the Last Bookstore is a must-visit for any book lover looking to visit LA, which I would certainly agree with that. It's losing some specifics. There was a maintenance man who fell down an elevator shaft and was left to just suffer there because I think he fell over the weekend and wasn't discovered until the next day, back when it was a bank. There's more details, but it's also good. It's also noteworthy if you're writing an article like this, like I am, that I would note that outside of the Cecil Hotel, the Last Bookstore was the last place that Elisa Lam was seen alive before famously going missing. She was the woman who was unfortunately found in the water tank on the roof of the Cecil. But we'll get back to the article here of the last paragraph. Downtown LA may have a contentious reputation, but for those with an adventurous spirit, there's plenty of fun, weird, and eerie sights to take in. From haunted bookstores to spooky bus tours, hey, they should be shouting me out on that one. Downtown LA is a hidden gem just waiting to be explored. I thought that was really, really well done. It's concise, and it's actually referencing something at the beginning, the contentious reputation. Because there were, especially a few years ago, and it's really a lot different now, but it did have a reputation. Parts of downtown LA had a big reputation for being either just not visitor friendly, not interesting, not worth going to, or parts of Skid Row, the Cecil Hotel area, being a dangerous place. You wouldn't want to go there at all. Things have changed a lot, and so I like that it was picking up on my note about that from the very beginning paragraphs to say that, hey, even though you may have heard some bad things, there's a lot of really cool stuff to do and see down here. So, I mean, ChatGPT versus the WordPress, they both have issues, but they both, I don't know. I actually, this is a very small sample for me. I've only clicked the button one time with WordPress, but I think WordPress is doing a better job, at least when it comes to writing articles. Okay, so we are going to look at a very famous, let me take a quick peek again. I'm losing myself. We are going into Peg Entwhistle next. So I wanted to do this live. Here, we'll see it together. I want to ask, the gate story is well known. It is very well known, but it's not as famous as something like Peg Entwhistle, who was the woman who committed suicide by jumping off the Hollywood sign, jumping off the letter H. So let's just see. Tell me the ghost story about Peg Entwhistle. Okay. All right, so we'll let this go. Let's just take a second. Peg Entwhistle was a young actress who lived in the early 20th century, born on February 5th, 1908. How long is this going to go? Okay, there we go. In Port Talbot, Wales. This is true. She later moved to the U.S. with her family. Peg had dreams of becoming a successful actress and pursued her career in Hollywood. Unfortunately, Peg's life took a tragic turn, leading to the creation of a haunting ghost story. In 1932, at the age of 24, Peg Entwhistle found herself facing a series of professional disappointments. She struggled to secure acting roles and felt discouraged by the lack of success. One evening, feeling despondent and overwhelmed by her career setbacks, Peg decided to visit the iconic Hollywood sign, which at the time read Hollywoodland. That's true. She climbed to the letter H, and overcome by despair, she jumped to her death. Her lifeless body was discovered 2 days later by a hiker. In the years that followed, rumors began to circulate about sightings of Peg Entwhistle's ghost near the Hollywood sign. Witnesses. So, okay, the historical background is spot on so far. Very impressed by that. When it comes to the ghost stories and the different, I don't know, we'll see. Different people and different shows have depicted it differently. I do have more color that would be more true to real life when we get into the historical element, but we'll move forward. Witnesses claim to have seen a spectral figure resembling a woman in 1930s attire, often shrouded in a faint mist. Some have reported mournful cries or the sound of a woman weeping in the vicinity of the sign. Numerous individuals visiting the area claim to feel an eerie presence and a sense of sadness enveloping them, particularly at nightfall. Some even reported experiencing unexplained cold spots as though an otherworldly entity was nearby. Over time, Peg Entwhistle's tragic tale became intertwined with Hollywood folklore, very true, perpetuating the ghostly legend associated with her name. Many believe that her spirit still roams the hills around the Hollywood sign, unable to find peace due to the circumstances of her untimely death. Though the stories of Peg Entwhistle's ghost remain unsubstantiated, they continue to captivate the imaginations of locals and visitors alike, adding an air of mystery and melancholy to an already storied history of the Hollywood sign. Pretty good, I'll say. I don't even fault this ChatGPT. I can't fault the AI for for kind of glossing over what these personal struggles were. Because most people, when retelling this, and we have to remember that it's basically a bot, the AI. It's going out and it's seeing a whole bunch of information and then trying to put it together and then polish it to look nice and pretty. Because if it looks nice, you assume it's accurate. So many people have just talked about the fact that she had professional struggles. She tried to become an actress, a professional star of the screen, and it didn't work out for her, which is kind of true, but that's really not it at all. Also, she was a successful actress because she was a very renowned stage actress on the East Coast in the New England area. She came out to Los Angeles, which at the time was a huge gamble because at that time there was a lot of people leaving the stage to pursue a screen acting career. And it was kind of, you kind of blacklisted yourself from your stage world that you were leaving behind. So if you don't succeed, well, you're not welcome to go back anywhere. At least that's the feeling at that time. Obviously, people have softened on that probably fairly quickly because, you need talented people. And at the end of the day, the most talented people will get the most work. And they don't at all mention the fact that she was going through a terrible, very, very, very messy divorce, which fed into this suicidal, very likely way more than anything else. But, ChatGPT did not talk about that at all, which, okay, I know that's not as easily reported because it's messier. It's very easy to say this actress had a tough time making it, so she killed herself. But they do have a lot of details correct. It was called Hollywoodland at the time. It was the letter H. Of course, I, as a writer, would have more details in here. But then, when it comes to the ghost stories, it's funny because there's two ways or two details, more than details, that people experience the most. Which one is the scent of her, I believe it was lilac perfume. So people will smell that more so than hearing faint cries or moans or anything like that. She's also been seen. This is the big one. I mean, this is huge and very important to the story. She is seen walking from her uncle's house, which was on Beechwood Canyon, walking through Griffith Park up the trail to the Hollywood sign. So she was visibly seen as a residual haunting, one that people tried to but could not interact with because people would think that this is some other hiker in odd clothing for a hike. But they try to say hi to her and she would not respond. She just continues on her what was essentially a death march to the letter H. And then people would continue to see this residual haunting of a woman standing at the top of the letter H jumping off. And that's not in here at all. So this is missing some really, again, if this was the only research you were going to do, it's just not ready because you're missing huge parts. And there's some other things, I don't know if people have talked about ever hearing, I don't know if she's seen shrouded in a faint mist. That's an awesome detail. I hope visually that would be very cool. That'd be good for a television depiction. I don't know if people have seen her enveloped in a shrouded in a faint mist, as it says here. It's giving a lot of details that are common in a haunting when it comes to, feeling some level of oppression. You feel the sadness and despair as an emotion impressed upon you, which again, that is something that happens at haunted locations. I've never heard about it for this story. It's not to say that that's not happening. And it does. It's interesting how I think we see which voices are loudest when it comes to the internet overall, which is the skeptical voice, because both times we talked about the gate and now Peg Entwhistle, that it points out that these are rumors, these are unsubstantiated. We can't say that this is actually happening. It's just interesting to note. Okay, so here's my next experiment, which is interviewing. Now, I'm going to start out with a very basic request, which I'm predicting will fail. And I'm doing this on purpose just to test it out. Give me interview questions for Scott Marcus. Now, if this thing does a great job of scouring the internet, I'm everywhere. I've had a website to my ghost stories and all of this since I think like 1997, 1990, late 90s. I mean, it's a long freaking time ago, more than 20 years. I had a production company, slimpictures.com, and then whatsyourghoststory.com is where I'm at now. So I exist out there. My name exists out there in connection with ghost stories. And so as you see right here, it's very vague. Give me interview questions for Scott Marcus. Also, I've been a filmmaker for a long time. So I have an IMDb page. I've had that for, I don't know, got to be close to 20 years as well. I've hosted a radio show. I currently host a podcast. Oh, and I work with the International Screenwriters Association. So my name is out there everywhere associated with them. Also, I'm just putting Scott Marcus. There's Scott Marcus Esquire in San Diego. Hello, if you're watching. I worked for a guy named Scott Marcus. He was my boss on Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Gary Scott Marcus, spelled the same way as well. So there's a lot more than just me here. So I'm curious, will it get anything at all? Because I'm not famous. I shouldn't say not that famous. I'm not famous. It's not like I'm asking for Tom Hanks or something like that. And then will it also confuse the other Scott Marcuses out there with me? So let's just take a quick look. It does have some professional background, experience relevant to this role. Oh, this is just so general. It doesn't mean anything yet. Okay, I'm going to go. Hopefully this doesn't go forever. Okay, so this is just giving a general list of questions you could ask anybody. Particularly challenging project or situation you've encountered in previous roles. Yeah, this is almost like job interview questions. Okay. I'm not seeing anything at all that is specific to me. So we're going to do a more detailed question. I'm going to say, give me interview questions. I'm going to say, oh, it's already doing 15. We'll stick with 15. Hopefully it does that. Based on this bio, this information. And then I wrote up a quick little blurb. So Scott Marcus is a filmmaker and paranormal author. He's worked on a number of films, major films and TV shows, including The Dark Knight, Stranger Than Fiction, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Flight 29 Down, Prison Break, and Lost. I'm going to tell you why I've phrased some of these things this way, because I'm testing it in different ways. He's directed 2 documentaries on the paranormal and written 1 book. He's also created a ghost tour that runs through Hollywood and downtown Los Angeles. He also co-hosts the Fantastic Story Society podcast, which is about the art of telling creepy or unusual stories. Okay, so first, mentioning the films and TV shows I worked on, some of them. I picked ones, and I want to see if they notice this, or if it notices this. Flight 29 Down, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Lost, all shot in Hawaii. The Dark Knight, Stranger Than Fiction, and Prison Break, all shot in Chicago. Will it notice that all of my work, all of the film work that I'm telling it about is in 2 different locations, and the same 2 different locations? Maybe it'll pick up on that. Also, I did not say the name of my book in there. The only thing I put in here, wait a minute. Okay, I got one more thing, part of this that I want to include. Make sure questions encourage Scott to tell some ghost stories. Since I'm talking to you on this channel, let's tell more ghost stories and talk about working on his bigger films. So when it comes to the ghost stuff, I only say in here that I did the Hollywood and downtown LA ghost tour. Didn't say anything about the specific topic of my book, which is Voices from the Chicago Grave. And my documentaries, one was about Chicago ghost stories, and one was about the series of drownings in La Crosse, Wisconsin. So yeah, so we'll see what it picks up on. We'll see if it can do this at all. This is kind of a complex idea, but it's been very good with a lot of other things. So let's just see what happens. Okay. As a filmmaker and paranormal author, you have a unique background. Could you share with us how you got interested in both filmmaking and the paranormal? Okay, so let's see. I will answer as much of these, as long as they're not so general and basic that they're not interesting questions, I'll answer them. Okay. And it gave me directions back. Remember to allow Scott Marcus to share his experiences and stories from his fascinating career. Yeah, it's basically that was a cop out. Hopefully, some of these stories will lead to stories. Some of these questions will lead to stories, which is what I asked it to do. How I got interested in both filmmaking and the paranormal. I was interested in filmmaking first. The paranormal was just something that captured my attention one summer. And once I began to research it, I thought, well, I want to join these two interests. And I thought this would be just a summer fling with the paranormal, that I would go to some haunted places with some friends, shoot a documentary, and that would be the end of it. And very quickly, I learned that there's way too many great stories out there that I can't fit them all in this documentary. And the more I get into this, the more fascinated I am and the more questions I have. And I just wanted to continue to learn and explore. And something that I thought was going to be just a fun way to spend a summer way back in 1999 ended up being something that has kind of come along with me my entire life since then. I've worked on some major films. I should be interviewing myself. You've worked on some major films and TV shows like The Dark Knight. Oh, how did you know? Can you tell us your experience taking on these projects and any interesting moments you encountered? I suppose that's accurate, that it's just asking me to talk about working on them. I thought it would be a bit more clever than that. I mean, there's so much information out there about those titles, especially, that it could be, I would want it to be a bit more specific. Yeah, I don't even feel like there's nothing there specific enough that I actually want to answer that. Your documentaries explore the paranormal. Could you share an intriguing or chilling story that you encountered during your research or filmmaking process? Again, that's very, very general. I'll say for the sake of this, because I want to keep telling ghost stories, that when I was talking about the filming process for my first documentary, I told my friends the story of Resurrection Mary, which we'll get into after this. And I said, my pitch to you guys is, let's go on location where these places are apparently experiencing hauntings. And let's go on site to tell the stories. And maybe we can interview people. Ghost hunting wasn't a thing yet. This was about 4 or 5 years before Ghost Hunters on Sci-Fi Channel. So I definitely didn't go out with any gadgets or anything, because again, we're talking 1999, and ghost hunting really wasn't a thing. But as I made my pitch to my friends about, this is how I think we should spend our summer, a bright ball of light appeared just over the treetops directly in front of me. And I had one friend sitting to my right who also was just straight in front of them. And the third person, because we were sitting in kind of a triangle, their back was to it. However, they were looking at the house we were sitting at. And that person saw the reflection in all of the windows of this bright ball of light that appeared, disappeared, reappeared, and then shot into the ground. And we just thought, what the hell was that? You know, I didn't even know about ghost lights yet. That's how new I was, which we find out that this is a common thing at haunted locations. These not just an orb that you see on film or on video, that you can see them in the flesh, if you will. So there's a ghost story. What inspired me to write about the paranormal? And can you tell us any captivating stories? Okay, it's getting repetitive here on just tell us captivating stories. What inspired me to write the book was that there were too many stories to get through in a documentary, and I wanted to go way more in depth on the details, more so than a visual media allowed. And I think my favorite, a captivating story, to me, what was captivating was anytime I got to be the first person to write about a location. St. Sava's Serbian Monastery comes to mind, where we had multiple amazing, insane stories from firsthand encounter eyewitnesses. This is in Libertyville, and actually, you could walk through this. There's a church, monastery. It's a Serbian Orthodox church. As there's a cemetery behind it, and then woods, and those woods actually go towards the gate in Libertyville. So we're all tying it in here. But that one summer, there was heavy construction in the area, and people were having mind-blowing experiences. One involved a traveler driving home. It's around midnight. This road is fairly fast. I don't know, 45, 50 miles an hour, 2-lane divided road. But It's also rural enough that there's not really many or any street lights. And they saw somebody walking in the street in front of them, which they thought was odd this late at night in the middle of nowhere. Nothing, I shouldn't say middle of nowhere, but nothing was really walking distance. And eventually this figure starts running towards the car. This eyewitness slams on the brakes, locks up the tires, comes to a screeching halt as this entity, turns out being an entity, went through the windshield and then through her. Blast of cold air as she was shaking, petrified. Boyfriend was asleep in the passenger seat, woke up obviously when the brakes locked up, and it was so real. He said, "Oh my God, we just hit him." He thought they actually ran over a person, but it was at that point that they realized that they were parked now on the street immediately across from this monastery, and that was again not the only crazy story that came out of that summer. Your ghost tour in Hollywood and downtown sounds fascinating. Can you share one of the more intriguing or spine-tingling? They got to lean off of some of these adjectives. Stories from the ghost tour. I mean, Elisa Lam. I'll just say that we all, I'm sure, know that that it was so weird doing this tour initially, right when this story was unfolding. So we were already going to the Cecil Hotel before we really knew anything about what was going on with this foreign exchange student who, not foreign exchange student, but this student who came in from Canada, who was staying in downtown LA and went missing and then was discovered. Her body was discovered. This was unfolding as we were going through this by the Cecil Hotel anyway. We were already going through because I had so many people telling me that, hey, I worked on a movie here, or I was in this area and I felt very uncomfortable. I felt like something was in the room with me. You should look into it. And then when I looked into the Cecil, found out about that the Night Stalker lived there at the very end before he was captured. While he was killing women in the area. Found out that after then, Jack Unterweger, another serial killer, ended up moving in because the Night Stalker used to live there, and he was murdering women around downtown LA. And it's got just a history of suicides and a very, very, very dark history. So we were going there before Elisa Lam, and then going there as they were finding her body, where I would be able to pull up and say, just last week, there were firefighters on the roof of this building opening. And so it was wild to be there on the scene in a lot of ways, telling these stories that now feel very distant, but they were really live when we were there. Let's see. Tell us about the Fantastic Story Society podcast you co-host. So it's the most memorable or eerie story that you've discussed on the show. I don't know why I like that question better than the other one so far. So the Fantastic Story Society podcast, like I said, it's about the art of telling wild, weird, creepy stories. And we have experts on of every kind. We have probably the world's leading expert on cults and how to get out of a cult, how to help somebody out of a cult. Rick Allen Ross is his name. He worked with the FBI and the Branch Davidians to a siege of Waco. He was working with them before everything went down. It's just one example of a great guest we've had. But the really fascinating thing is that we get to have these people on. Sometimes they're filmmakers or writers that aren't necessarily paranormal people, and ask them if they have any ghost stories. And I think that's where some of the best stories have come out of, is these people that don't really get to talk about their ghost stories. And that's why I love, my website name, whatsyourghoststory.com. We had James Hart, who created as a writer of Hook and Contact and just so many more. Epic. I'm blanking. August Rush. There were many movies that this guy has written, and he has a terrifying ghost story about growing up in Texas and working on a film when he was a young filmmaker and staying at this house that was the site of a double homicide. And he had no idea what he was in for. Just check it out. We've got a lot of great stories on there. How do I approach the art of telling creepy or unusual stories on the podcast? Do I have any techniques or tips that I could share with aspiring storytellers? That's interesting. Yeah, I like that. So I'm critiquing each question individually. I think the most important thing is I learned probably as a freshman in high school, which is include as many details as possible and take your time. I mean, you don't want to make it so drawn out. People are losing focus and losing their attention spans. But if you can just continue to be engaged. And the thing is, you should be excited to tell your story too, especially if you're verbally telling your story. Don't be afraid of a long pause when it's necessary. Um, and I want to make sure I can see comments just in case. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Include as many details as is reasonable, ensuring that still that the story is moving forward. Be emotional with your story, and be excited about your story. Yeah, and again, like I just said, pauses are good. Let something sink in. If something's mind blowing, something is effing mind blowing, make sure that you're conveying that too. And you can let them sit on this knowledge as it processes. Because if you're telling a creepy story, a ghost story, something exceptional, sometimes it's hard to wrap your mind around something. I guess I would rehearse too, maybe would be a good thing to do. I have the pleasure and the luxury of telling stories over and over and over again. But it's so exciting the first time I get to tell a story and see how audience reacts. And then do a take two and try to find the right combinations of words so that it flows well and feels like it's landing and is clear and concise. Okay, so we're up to number 8 here. I'm going to try to go through these a little faster. Working the paranormal field often involves dealing with skepticism. This is a good question, ChatGPT. How do you handle skepticism and skeptics while sharing your experiences or stories? I wish I could have claimed that I wrote this in there myself, because I did a whole lecture on telling ghost stories to skeptics, which you can find right here on our channel. But the important thing is to welcome them in. I think so often, and almost exclusively, if somebody announces that they're a skeptic, they're coming in a really confrontational way. And I would say that the other, why that's not 100% is, though, a couple of percent, the 5% of other skeptics say, yeah, I'm a skeptic. And they're maybe afraid of being attacked, or maybe they're embarrassed about, if you're telling ghost stories with a group, oftentimes the people there are believers, not a mix of skeptics and not. But the first thing I do right off the bat is make them feel welcome and heard and appreciated. And I talk about how important it is on an investigation to make sure that you have skeptics that will keep us all level-headed. It's very easy to get that mass hysteria kind of thing going where one person gets spooked and it scares somebody else, and it builds and builds. But so I like to make sure that the skeptic knows that skeptics are very important to being good at investigating and at telling ghost stories, because it's all about personal experiences in some ways. And if a skeptic can share a different viewpoint, that could make the story better in a lot of ways. And I've had examples of skeptics coming in to, whether it's keep a level head or saying like, okay, well, I can debunk 90% of everything else you guys are upset about, but this thing, I don't know what that is. Now that's suddenly a lot more interesting. But still, great question. And again, I'm very proud of the speech I gave. It was at the Milwaukee Paracon a few years ago, and it's recorded with good sound and all that right here on the channel. And yeah, telling ghost stories to skeptics is the name of that. Is there a particular investigation or filming experience that stands out as the most challenging or intense? That's so wild, because those are two completely different things. And yes, I don't get to talk about my filmmaking background very much. So that's why I put that in the prompt, to see if I can finally tell a story, talk about that. And the most extreme filming experience was working on the music video to This Too Shall Pass from the band OK Go. If you remember, this was, I don't even want to say, but probably 10 years ago now. I was 13. I think it was 13 years ago. It's a music video that's a Rube Goldberg machine that literally starts with a domino tipping down and knocking the next domino. And then it gets bigger and grander and more intricate until eventually there's cars going, actual cars going down ramps, and pianos falling as counterweights to other rigs and gigs that we had. That was a build that went for 3 months. The band had a whole bunch of guidelines that they gave to Syn Labs, SYYN Labs, with this team of amazing nerds in Los Angeles, people that were from MIT and JPL, and just these great engineering minds from all different disciplines of science as well. And they had, most of their videos in the past, if you ever know them, they're famous for a few things, which is the camera. It's all one take, no editing. So it had to be done in one take. The actual music had to drop off at least one point. I think they wanted to, but at least one point, and the machine had to then make the music for a little bit. And I don't know if this was a mandate, but their other videos usually involve them doing crazy stuff all within one take. This video is different, where the camera is what's moving. The camera is not stationary. At that time, the cameras were always just locked off and then crazy stuff happened in front of it. This time, the band would be totally stationary. We wouldn't really see them move at all. Only one time, you'd never actually see them walk or move around. One time you see, it was the drummer look off to the side, which he shouldn't have done. He got distracted by something, but that was the only time there was movement other than just the band sitting there singing. So the action happened around them. And so this is, yes, 3-month build. We had one day, the day before shooting, it was Super Bowl Sunday, and the power went out. And this warehouse we were shooting was in a bad neighborhood. And he just knew right away that this is going to be the last neighborhood to get power back, sadly and unfortunately. So all of these people are trying to last minute build this thing, work out all of the kinks. Precious time is going away, where we have no power and it's inside at night, a warehouse. And then, yes, a gang fight breaks out in our parking lot, in our very small parking lot. We all have to run inside, secure the doors. It started to feel like a zombie film in some ways. Oh man, it was intense. I mean, talk about intense. It was enough. And then the next day we're shooting, and that shoot lasted like 30 hours. I don't know what it was. It was a long time. And at one point, it didn't seem like we're going to be able to do it without hiding a cut in the middle of it. And that was so upsetting to Damien, the lead singer, the son of an engineer, which is where you can kind of see where a lot of this is coming from. Anyway, I'm going on and on, but that was my most extreme. They got it. It happened at the 0 hour. Beautiful music video. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. What? Oh, so this is an interesting miss. When it comes to filmmaking, what drew you to working on projects in the horror or supernatural genre? Is there a film or scene you've worked on that you found exciting or memorable? I'm going to skip this one because the funny, ironic thing is that I've never worked on a horror movie. I would love to, especially if it was a James Wan movie or Stephen King movie, or a Mike Flanagan film. But I've never worked on an actual horror movie. Let's see. Have I ever? This is a good one. Have I ever encountered a supernatural, paranormal experience while working on a film set? And again, intriguing experiences. That phrase is in there. Yes, I worked on a movie called, oh gosh, The Elegy, I think was what it was called. It was a short film, but we shot at Vista Hospital, which I didn't know on the day that I was going to be going to one of the most haunted sites in the planet. You get your call sheet the day before and you just find out your address and call time and then drive up. And I pull in, I was new to LA, and there's this gorgeous 1920s era falling apart, crumbling, huge building. Is it LG for The Departed? Can't remember the name. But I would, of course, sneak off anytime I could to just explore this huge building, which was obviously used a lot for filming. Buffy the Vampire Slayer was shot there. There's a lot of music videos shot, ton of music videos shot there. Pearl Harbor, the movie, shot there because it's a very locked in time location. But I got to this one room and felt so uncomfortable. Like I did not feel like I was alone in the room. I felt something else was in there, that it was sizing me up and down. And then that day when we wrapped for the night, I went home, started to do research on Linda Vista Hospital, found out, oh my God, you were at your dream location. I just didn't know it yet. And found out that the room I was in was the actual surgery room, and that it's one of the most active rooms. And it is where a surgeon was trying to save someone's life. It was a gang member. In the 90s, this area became just a big crossroads of a whole bunch of gangs battling. Became a triage center eventually, and was not able to save this person. And almost like revenge, when he was leaving work that day, going out to his car, he was murdered by the gang members, by the fellow gang members who were grieving the loss of one of their compatriots. And the doctor is apparently still there and very angry. And I can vouch for it, having no idea. When I was in this room, I didn't, like I said, there's so much filming going on in there. Everything looked like a set. I don't know what's real or what dated back to the time period. Turns out that room I was in was legitimately locked in time. It looked just as it looked when the hospital was still in operation. And yeah, I would say without question, I felt an oppression in that room. let's see. 12, balance factual research and documentation for paranormal projects with creative storytelling elements to create an engaging, compelling narrative. How do I do that? Well, I think we talked about that a lot when just talking about, especially the gate, how ChatGPT handled the gate story, because that was ChatGPT did a really good job making some of those details engaging, visual. That with Peg Entwhistle, that she was veiled in a fine mist. The idea of telling, like calling out to a spirit through the gates of the bars of the gate, which again is BS. That's not part of the legend, but it's still interesting. I can go on more, but I won't. Let's see. Advice for aspiring filmmakers or authors who are interested in exploring the paranormal or horror genre. First off, watch everything you can possibly watch when it comes to probably all of it, because you'll see what you like, what you don't like, what works, what doesn't work. And when it comes to paranormal television, a lot doesn't work. And you'll also see the same thing over and over again, and it'll make you so frustrated you'll want to break out of those constraints and do something new, which is what that genre needs a lot. Yeah, the biggest thing is doing it on your own, finding your own voice. You're very inclined early on to mimic the things that you love, which is good, to identify what you love, but then challenge yourself and say, okay, this is something that I love and it exists and it works. How can I improve on it? I got told something when I was young, it's college young, that made me have to rethink things. And so the first screenplay I ever wrote was a mafia story. And at that time, The Sopranos was huge. And the manager I was pitching to said, yeah, the writing is really good, but The Sopranos is out right now. Why would somebody want to, if somebody wants to hear a mafia story, they're going to watch The Sopranos. Why would they see your movie? And I just wasn't prepared for that question. So I had to know right away why mine is different than everything else that's out there. And that's something that I've taken with me moving forward. See, I'm going to try to be thoughtful here at some of these answers, not just breeze through them all. Okay, almost through. Sneak peeks at any upcoming projects. Anything exciting in the pipeline? You know, we're doing so much at the ISA. There's a lot of cool stuff over there. I'm doing videos with them as well on the creative side. So check that out. I want to keep doing more and more. Oh, I am celebrating 25 years in the paranormal field next year. So I will have a book talking about that. And that's my announcement. Thank you, ChatGPT, for playing hardball here and making sure I got that out of me. Finally, what do you enjoy most about your work in the paranormal field, and how do you hope to continue making an impact in this area in the future? I love sharing my joy. That's a general statement, and I hope I do that in everything I do, not just in the paranormal. I think, the world, as scary and weird and unsettling as it is often, is still an amazing and beautiful, magical place. And the paranormal is an embodiment of that in such a massive way. We always think about the scary stuff, but I like to focus on, yes, there's lots of scary stuff, and I think it's fun to be scared. Not that I'm a thrill seeker, but I love to use the world of the paranormal to appreciate what a cool and weird and magical place the world is that we live in. So there's my answer to that one. I'm not going to go through everything that I thought I was going to, but let's see, where was I? Here we go. I'm just going to jump to the images because it's fun and we've gone for almost an hour. So let's end with something just silly and we will do this. So if you saw the thumbnail where I'm being interviewed by a robot, I thought it would be interesting for you to see the incarnations of robots that brought us to where we landed. And so here we go. So a friend mentioned that Bing, B-I-N-G, for one, still exists, which I didn't know, but it has a free-to-use image generator through AI. So first, I just typed in, as you see at the top there, a robot holding a microphone, and these were the options it gave me. And then, even though it was humanoid, I really wanted to bring out the human features. So I said a humanoid robot holding a microphone. And then these still weren't really working for me, even though they look cool. Also, I want to make it easier on myself. So I said, okay, let's white background this. So it'd be very easy for me to remove the background. They got more, I don't know, it looks like Macintosh, Apple designed that top right one. And then finally, uh, you know, this doesn't work because if I was to be in this image, my head would be in front of the camera basically. So I need a profile view, and that's where we ended up. And I picked this one on the top left. Now, at the very last minute, I thought, boy, it would be interesting, and I love what happens here. It would be interesting if I'm not part of it at all. So it's not really me being interviewed by a robot, but let's see an image of a robot interviewing a ghost, and here's what we got. See, I was thinking that the ghost was going to look like something from the Haunted Mansion, like a Victorian era person that was transparent and glowy with a top hat and a coat and a long coat. But no, what are we seeing here? A robot interviewing a ghost robot. That is what it came up with. I didn't think I'd have to specify that the ghost would be a human. But yeah, just check these out. I don't know. Unexpected fun. And that's why this is so that's why this is so interesting, because you don't really understand how the AI is going to interpret it. Also, this is why people aren't going to just immediately get replaced by AI. I've used it a handful of times, and I feel like, and I've heard other people say this too, so this isn't even all that insightful, that you end up spending about the same amount of time working on it. There are certain things like, I'm not a graphic designer. I can't do this type of stuff that we're seeing here at all. So that's cool for me. But even when it comes to the text type stuff, I have to do a lot of work to make it feel that it's working, that it makes sense, that it flows. So it, again, as we said at the very top of this, it's just a tool to help you on your journey at this stage. In the future, it's going to be getting better. But for the time being, this was being interviewed by an AI bot, and also hearing some ghost stories and finding out how much we can't yet rely on ChatGPT. At the very least, we can't rely on that to do our research for us. Anyway, if anybody ever has anything that they want me to do a video on, I'd be very happy to. But until next time, keep exploring our crazy, weird, haunted world. Thanks for watching.